Hello, you all. I hope all is well. I'm excited to talk about this topic. It started from a conversation I had with my mother. My mother and I were talking this morning, it's a Saturday morning, and she was just like, I've got to get off of this FaceTime with you because you are just saying something. And so I decided she told me, she's like, you have to give it to me all at once. I can't take it in dosages like this. So just get it all out and then we'll come back. I'm like, all right, mama, so let's do it. So that is the reason for this vlog. I started blogging in about 2008. And I want to say I wrote a blog about this or referenced this about 10 years ago. And so what I want to talk about, or I'm going to talk about, is the relationship between men and women as it connects to Adam and Eve. A very discussed relationship, right? And typically it's highlighted in a way to point blame and to say it's the woman's fault. And so what I'm offering is another perspective that I believe is the basis for why we as people today have to work so hard and be so deliberate in creating healthy standards, healthy ways to approach our relationship in unconditional love because of the beginnings. When we understand the beginning of something, when we understand potential causes, reasons, and factors, then that helps us to reinforce our relationship in a healthy way and protect it in a healthy way. Excuse me. So with that, I would like to talk about the fact that we know that Adam blamed Eve. In Genesis 3:12, it says, the man said, the woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it. So if we think about it and we take it back, we know that God originally gave the command to Adam about the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. And in turn, Adam told Eve about it. Got it. So what I would like to offer from that standpoint is I'm not placing blame. I'm not pointing the fingers. I'm simply saying that we have to understand the beginning so that we can troubleshoot it for ourselves in the now. So this is a question I want to ask. What if Adam had told God, you know what, Lord, I did eat the fruit. You told me not to eat the fruit. I told Eve not to eat it. But she brought it to me. In fact, she did, but I ate it. And so I accept that. That's my bad. I shouldn't have done it. What if Adam had said that, right? For all we know, God could have been like, okay, Adam, because we know God is a compassionate God. He's a loving God. We know he created Jesus for us, right? He created the end before the beginning and wrapped everything up in the middle in case we made a mistake, because he wanted us always to be reconciled back to him, or have the opportunity to be reconciled back to him, because we're the greatest of his creation, right? And so if Adam had just said, you know what, Lord, standing 10 toes down, you're right, we could be in a different place today, but we're not. And so because of that initial response that Adam had, let's think about it. That resonates today. Typically, what happens in a dynamic of relationship? People point the finger, right? We say it's his fault. We say it's her fault. We say it's their fault. We point the finger. And that does not address the issue. That does not fix the issue. So we have to be reconditioned. We have to be redirected. We have to be renewed in our minds, like Romans says. I think it's Romans 12:1. We have to be renewed in our minds so that we stop doing that, because pointing the finger doesn't do anything. But let's talk about it. When we think about the role and duty of a husband as designed by God, he is the head. Because remember, after they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, I'm not sure where it says in Genesis, but it says something to the effect of man had like charge over the woman, or like head over the woman, something to that capacity, right? And so it made him the head and the covering. And so with that, that's a full responsibility. And it's not that we are in the phase of, we're not second class. God never designed women to be second class. It was that, oh, your husband shall have rule over you. Okay. And so with that, I believe that even ties into the submission discussion. So And when I say rule, not controlling, I mean the responsibility of the household, right? And so when that brings in the discussion of submission, that everybody wants to talk about submit, 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 and we don't realize the gift of submission, the beauty of submission, the value of submission. We submit to God every day. Men submit to God, women submit to God. And in the confines or the bounds of marriage, in the unity of marriage, submission is actually a very significant assertion, I would say, that says, you know what? I trust God and I trust you as you are following God. And because of that, I come under your covering and your protection as the head of his household. And that I also believe that the man submits as he submits to God, that in turn reinforces the family. Because I remember I had someone ask me, are you going to submit to me? And I told him, I will submit to you as you submit to God. And because I'm just going to be honest, if I've been living my life, me and Jesus, me and God, we roll real deep. I've been okay. I've not needed anyone to come in the space of trying to tell me what to do and how to do it, because that's not what a relationship is anyway, right? So when we have two different thought processes going on, it has to come to a level of understanding and compromise, or it just can't go forward, right? So let me get back to it. So I was like, I have no problem submitting to you, right? Because even before I got into the phase of considering dating with a purpose, I was asking God to work on me as an individual so I could grow in areas and be refined so that I could be a blessing, right, to the person that God connected me with, so that I could be not a thorn in his side, right? So I could be a rib. But you know what? I was already a rib. God just was refining some things. And he's continuing to do that. And so I was like, I'll submit to you as you submit to God. There's an adverbial clause there. Because I told him, because if you're not submitting to God, I'm just going to say, all hell is going to break loose. Now, was that the right answer to say? No. What I should have said was, I would just be prayerful. But thank Jesus that didn't connect to that point, right? Because how can we expect somebody to do something that we in turn aren't doing it? That's crazy. But anyway, let me get back to what I was talking about. So if Adam had just accepted responsibility, we could be in a different space, but we're not. And so because that entered the earthly realm, that is something that we have to operate against, or war against, or fight, to not place blame as men and as women, to just say, you know what, this is what it is. Now let's deal with the results of it. Right? Like I tell my students, when you get an A or you earn an A in my class, you're like, ooh, I got an A on my paper. But then if you get a C, D, or an F, you're like, ooh, Ms. Van gave me. No, you earned that, right? You have to then go back and think about, what did I do that led up to this point? What did I do that caused me to receive this grade? Because I told them, I don't give grades. You earn them. Okay? So it's the same thing. If we are looking at something, if something is in front of us, we have to ask ourselves some questions. How did it get to this point? And then we have to endeavor to not place blame. We have to be honest and stand in it. All right, the second thing I would like to say is, where was Adam when Eve was having this conversation with the serpent? I'm sure we've heard this talked about before. Where was Adam? Because if he's the protector of the home, protector of Eve, right, her covering, why was it that Eve was able to have this conversation with the serpent? Now, I'm not saying it from the standpoint of a man needs to control a woman or a woman needs to control a man. No, y'all, God can't even control us. So how in the world do we as people think it's okay to control other people? Say what? Because even thinking about it with my students or children or my dogs, you can't control them. If you have the responsibility where you have charge over them to like protect them, guide them, and teach them, you can do the best that you can, but you still can't control them. Like, and let me give you the example, my puppy Zoe. I am teaching her and training her, right? I still can't control her. I can redirect her behavior, and so to the point that she hopefully is going to understand and get it. And we're getting there. I'm so proud of my fur baby. So I'm not talking about it, like I said, from the standpoint of control. I'm talking about it was, how is it that the serpent was able to plant this seed in Eve's mind if Adam wasn't around or present? Because, typically thinking about it, when you're in a relationship, when you're in that space, you have conversations about, people you talk to that day, people you see, people, things that you've observed. So Adam and Eve, with the ball dropped in that regard too. Because we know how women, how we are. We use thousands more words than men do. Studies have shown that. We do. We're communicative in that way. And so we don't know the circumstances that surrounded it, but we know that a door was open and Eve was able to have this conversation with the serpent that started the ball rolling. It says in Genesis 3:1, where now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to woman, did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? And that started her wheels going, started her wheels turning. And so when Eve brought the fruit to Adam and Eve repeated what the serpent said, Adam could have been like, wait, Eve, who told you that? Like, wait, where'd you get that from? And that could be the same thing in present day. Like if the man brings something to the woman and says something that the woman knows is not a normal thought or a typical connected factor in their discussions that they have, when you have godly wisdom, your ear picks up on that. And to be like, okay, wait, babe, what? Where'd you hear that? And then that can create the framework of having healthy discussion and actually understanding the blessing of each other in a relationship, right? Of the man and the woman, that you all are covering each other and that you all are moving forward together in wanting the best for each other individually and collectively, so it doesn't need to be accusatory, which it lends to now, right? A lot of times we have those issues in our relationship, but all we have to do is seal our relationship in conversation, constructive response and feedback, and in love. In love. Isn't that good stuff? So the question, who are we talking to? Who are we listening to? What thoughts are we entertaining? Yeah. Because negative things are against unity and connectivity. Because unity represents God. Unity represents God. Yeah. And so I will say that with this strife from the beginning, it has impacted our homes and our lives through the years. And so my final point that I would like to connect it to is a dynamic that exists heavily in the Black community that I believe stems from slavery. So because this strain was already in our family unit, or because this strain already existed between men and women, when the institution of slavery came into play, it just capitalized on that strain that was already there. And so when families were torn apart, when the enslaved Africans were torn apart from their loved ones and families, when slaves were viewed as cargo and livestock and not seen as human, then the value of love didn't even seem to be, or the presence of love wasn't even an issue, because some slave owners held the views that the enslaved Africans didn't have souls. And so one of the things, we weren't allowed to get married as enslaved Africans, hence the jumping of the broom, right? We created our own ceremony to unite us, but even in that being united, one of us could have been sold away. And so with that strain, it created a further dynamic of division between the man and the woman, because I'll use this example. I've got married to my person in my, in our using the standard or using the ceremony of jumping the broom. But because I was not my own and he was not his own, he would have to go lay with other women to make babies, because we were livestock. We were goods to be sold. And so what dynamic did that create between the two of us? or in some instances, slave owners slept with the enslaved African women. And so, how would that make my husband feel? The fact that the slave owner could come in at any time and sleep with his wife. So, it created further strain. So, I said that to say, because we know what happened during the biblical era, during slavery, that gives us the playbook, that gives us the plan to combat that so that we don't allow those experiences, those previous experiences, to continue to plague us and our relationships in a destructive manner. So we get the playbook, right? And we know what to do from that point. So it's like, okay, yes, so we know this happened. We know this happened. We know that happened. How can we counter that so that it doesn't have an adverse effect on our lives or in our lives? So I would say it starts individually first with us and then collectively in the dynamic of the relationship. So those are just some viewpoints that I wanted to share, connected to the ongoing discussion between relationships. Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think that the blame game is necessarily helpful? Well, we can say the blame game doesn't help anything. It creates further strain and unnecessary dynamic, and we meet it again in another space of time, in another relationship, because it permeates. And we just have to make the decision that we are not going to allow it to have a negative impact. That we're going to have to make the decision to say, this is how we're going to battle it. This is how we're going to address it and quell it, thwart it, stop it, so it doesn't continue to carry on and fester in a negative way. So I thank you all for taking the time to share this space with me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because I'm definitely saying it's not a blame game. It's what's the remedy of what we're going to do. Y'all know that song, "What I Need From You Is Understanding." That's what we need. We need to stop blaming. We need to understand so that we can move forward. Yes, move forward. I would like to say, these are my lovely earrings. I meant to say at the beginning of the recording, has musical notes on them, because I was going to say the connection or the analogy of, hopefully this is music to our ears in a healthy and constructive way. And I'll put in the bio the beautiful designer of these earrings. She has great patterns. I love them. I call them great teacher earrings, great earrings for various outfits, because they're so versatile. Yeah. So y'all have a wonderful one, and I'll see you next time.